If you're anything like me, then you probably have fond memories of being a kid, playing outside with your friends, staying up way too late watching your first anime, maybe even playing Xbox a little too loudly to drown out the sound of your parents throwing things at each other in the kitchen. As we get older, we get access to a bit more freedom and the world begins to open up. But at the same time, this rift forms, creating this huge gap between us and our childhood self. As we mature, it's entirely normal to develop new interests and forget about the things that once made us a kid. But it's sort of sad in a way to lose that part of us. Now look, being an adult isn't all that bad. Sure, we have to pay taxes and go to work, but that also means that we have disposable income for things like alcohol and OnlyFans subscriptions. We can also continue to stay up all night watching anime, but instead of being tired in class, you might fall asleep while driving. Despite all of this, there will always be a part of me that's longing for that sense of childlike wonder that I used to have. I don't want to get all sappy, but part of me misses being a kid. This isn't something I think about every day. And if you do, you might want to see a therapist. But every once in a while, something comes to us, and it doesn't just stir these emotions up, but it actually takes you back in time and lets you briefly relive the very feeling of childlike innocence. And for me, Yaiba Samurai Legend did just that. Yaiba is a retelling of a very old manga and anime, with the source material dating back to 1988. Luckily for us, these ancient texts are being adapted by Studio Wit, which you probably know from Spy Family or Attack on Titan when it still looked good. The show opens with a beautifully animated fight scene, and it keeps this quality all the way throughout. Yaiba does away with a lot of the modern nonsense and doesn't try to reinvent the wheel, partly due to it being there when the wheel was invented. It's certainly not the oldest shonen, but it sticks to the traditional core and focuses on simply telling a fun story. I haven't read the manga or watched the OG anime, but so far Yaiba pretty much focuses on just having a good time. You get these really beautifully animated fight scenes in nearly every episode, with a sprinkle of Monster of the Week, with new faces popping up regularly. It's also written by the author of Detective Conan, and if you're a Western idiot like me, just know there's a show that's even longer than One Piece. Right from the rip, the show lets us know that the animation team hasn't seen their family for a few months, and if it gets renewed, that'll probably turn into a few years. At the start, we have no idea what exactly is going on, except it looks badass. There are two swordsmen fighting each other while flying around. Pretty colors and bolts of dark energy are being shot from their blades at each other. There's a fucking giant dragon snake monster thing. And the narrator is yapping about the Oblivion remaster or something. This is how you start a first episode, especially if you know that the show is going to take some time to ramp up. After we see them beat the shit out of each other for a bit, we're met with this beautifully animated opening, and now it's time for the origin story. The start of the story of Yaiba is fairly interesting, despite being relatively generic. Meet Yaiba and his father Kenjiro, who are essentially role-playing as Tarzan. They live in the forest isolated from the rest of the world, aside from Yaiba's pet tiger and pet vulture, Wicked. Here, they practice being a samurai and terrorize the wildlife by beating the shit out of them. One day, the gorillas look at each other and say, "Ape strong together," and they band together and jump both Yaiba and his dad. If 100 humans versus one gorilla was a debate, I fear for the Twitter discourse of 2 samurai and 8 gorillas. In an effort to escape their pursuers, they hide in a crate of pineapples and get shipped to a busy city. Luckily for our dynamic duo, they escape the gorillas and don't find themselves in America, so they dodge deportation and just live here now, I guess. Regardless, they put on their American cosplays, jump airport security, and run into a girl named Sayaka. Much like everybody watching this, Yaiba has never spoken to a woman before, and promptly hits her with the, a woman?
Humana boner.
From here, Yaiba heads to Sayaka's dojo and gets into a fight with her best kendoer? Is that a word? If Yaiba can win in a 1v1 samurai duel, he gets to stay and live at the dojo. After proceeding to beat up the human gorilla in kendo, we quickly realize this kid is a disrespectful little shit. Look, I'm all for styling on people and even a little bit of BM here and there, but this kid is just a dick. He turned around mid-fight and said, "Look mom, no eyes," and sent the gorilla man into the ceiling. Okay, man. From here, Yaiba has earned his spot at the dojo and gets to stay in Japan. He gets to enjoy massive meals for breakfast, consistent training, ogling at every girl he meets. After enjoying the good life, he tags along with Sayaka to her kendo training, which he is borderline sexually harassing. And meets Onimaru, a great student who also just happens to completely shit on Yaiba. In fact, he shit on Yaiba so hard that he refused a rematch because the skill gap was so large between them that it would make Onimaru worse. Now, our little terrorist can't have that, so he goes on to try to goad Onimaru into a fight, by completely ruining his life. He steals his shit, breaks onto his property, where he finds his vulture having stolen Onimaru's pigeon's food, and even tries to literally kill him at school. I know he grew up in the forest, but Yaiba isn't an animal. He's the goddamn Antichrist. He finally gets what he wants and has his rematch with Onimaru, where he disrespects both him and the art of the epic samurai duel. He kicks Onimaru in the face, he throws food and literal wooden planks at him. And while Onimaru is distracted, beats his face in with his sword. Despite cheating horrendously, Yaiba claims himself the victor and moves on with his life. Onimaru, on the other hand, is at his lowest. His mind has been broken, and not in the weird hentai way. He's been entirely harassed and embarrassed by this little kid, and in a moment of weakness, he finds himself in an incredibly conveniently placed secret dungeon under his house. He loses the battle to his literal demons and gives in to the evil, digivolving from Onimaru to Onimaru. Alright, I guess we're doing Onis now. With his newfound power, he pulls up to school the next day and tries to violently kill Yaiba with a real sword. Despite being stronger, faster, and using a real sword, this isn't enough for Mr. Oniman. So he, and I'm not kidding, uses the magic sword to cut the school in half in order to try to kill Yaiba. I think this is Japan's equivalent to a certified American moment, but instead of AR-15s, they get possessed demon swords. The teachers and the police are entirely useless and they let this play out. Yaiba gets his ass kicked and his bird saves him. And thus begins these two characters on their adventures. Yaiba to find and master the other magical sword in order to stop Onimaru, and Onimaru to become Demon Hitler and take over the world and kill a small child in the process. Huh. Despite this batshit insane start to the show, the rest of Yaiba is relatively relaxed. Sure, we get pretty frequent high-quality action scenes and story progression, but even with the stakes being relatively high, things feel a bit more relaxed, and that's what really drew me in. There's never a doubt as to who will win in the end, and I know what I'm getting into with each episode. Some dumb fun with some litty action. As you'd expect in a shonen, Yaiba grows in both skill and character as the episodes pass, without too much time being dedicated purely on training. He flourishes his skills and learns on the fly, meaning you're never really taken out of the story or action for very long. In between fights and important moments, Yaiba showcases its childish but still funny humor, which is a big reason as to why I feel like a kid seated watching Saturday morning cartoons. Sure, the show can get a little bit sus at times, but it never feels like the author was just being a pervert, but instead feels like they're looking at the world through the lens of a mischievous 12-year-old. Now, as I say this, I need to acknowledge that there is a character who essentially lived for 400 years, pretty much purely with the intent to see women in miniskirts, but I digress. That's hilarious. You get characters straight out of Digimon like Snaily, who Yaiba immediately just throws salt at, or Mr. Bat the vampire, whose badass entrance isn't killing anybody, but instead stealing Sayaka's food and deep-throating it in front of her. The show doesn't take itself too seriously, but still introduces a fun, coherent plot with some level of stakes involved. I can easily follow along fully while not giving it 100% brain power. And while I might not think about the episodes in between them airing, I'm still eager for the next one with each coming week. There's this scene where Yaiba, who has been woman-obsessed since the get-go, saves the day and defeats the episode's big baddie, and then Sayaka jumps on his arm to celebrate. Without missing a beat, Yaiba pushes her off and pretty much says, "This is a serious matter."
Be gone, fuck!
This slightly out-of-character quip is what makes the show so fun at times. Even though the cast sticks to their typical shonen shell, the author isn't afraid to throw a joke in here or there that might push them out of their original mold. The spring 2025 anime season has been stellar. We've had Apothecary Diaries Season 2, trying to hook the world by storm with To Be Hero X, and the fan-favorite Fire Force even made its long-awaited return, and wasted no time in reminding me that no matter how hype the show is, it is somehow even more uncomfortable to watch. With so many shows to choose from, it's easy to skip a few, and Yaiba was just that show for many people. A lot of the people who did watch it also seem to be looking for the next Jujutsu Kaisen, and as such missed out on something that they really might have enjoyed. There's also the people who gave it a few episodes and couldn't get past the main character being an asshole, which is fair, but seeing as how many people were able to sit through the start of Black Clover's Screaming Simulator, I think we can give Yaiba a little bit of a chance to grow. You also occasionally stumble upon people like this who watch the first 2 episodes and feel compelled to leave this review. Onimaru has to be the most sensible, practical character on this show, literally rooting for him. He was a good academic scholar with kendo as special subject. His life was uprooted by Yaiba, MC. Then he comes in contact with an evil sword at his low point. Even after becoming evil, he remains sensible and practical. He conquers government with force and people with joy, entertainment, peace. He has sensible, understandable goals. We're all thinking the same thing, right? This guy has never spoken to a woman before. Now, I'm not saying the show is perfect. Even as someone who really did enjoy it, I still wouldn't rate it much higher than a 7 out of 10. But Yaiba is a seriously fun watch, and often that's what I want when I watch an anime. A fun time where I don't really have to think that much. Don't get me wrong. I love shows like Psycho Pass, Monster, and Violet Evergarden, but sometimes a person just wants to loaf around. I don't always want to spend my energy on complicated character dynamics and intricate plots. And sick fights and pretty lights can satisfy my Zoomer brain all the same. With that in mind, good fight choreography and stunning animation can certainly carry a show, but it still needs some amount of substance to stick the landing, or else you end up with Ninja Kamui. But apparently that's getting 2 more seasons, so what the hell do I know? Yaiba offers a good blend of all of these things, and I'm so glad that I gave it a shot. When you're presented with so many choices for what to watch, some things inevitably end up getting shelved in favor of things that you know you're going to like. This is one of the biggest downsides of becoming an adult. With so many responsibilities and life in general being so exhausting, it can be hard to figure out how to spend what little free time we have, and deciding what deserves our free time is one of the biggest challenges of all. As the years pass, we're blessed with more and more high-quality anime, but it can be hard to navigate through a sea of 7 out of 10s to find one that's really worth your time. Yaiba might not be genre-defining, and when the show finishes its course, I probably won't rewatch it 5 years later. But I do know that whenever I remember it, I'll be taken back to the days where just for a little bit I could forget about the things that were stressing me out and remember what it was like to feel like a kid again.